I'm Kyley.
I'm Kimberly.
And we are board certified behavioral analysts.
And this is Behavior Analysts React.
This is vibey though. What people think sensory seeking and autism looks like versus
Just doing some tactile stuff. Yes.
Hey! See, this is what my kid does.
Yeah.
He yeets himself off of couches.
A little proprioceptive input.
Yeah.
Pressure.
That's a big word. Say it again.
Proprioceptive input.
What does that mean?
It means like feeling where your body is in space.
I like feeling my body in space.
This is just tactile sensory needs. The other ones are more like either pressure seeking, like jumping on the floor, or...
And doing the kinetic sand is always good in like a school environment, but like at home especially, that's when you can just
do all the things.
Really get in there.
I think people defer to this like tactile stuff because you can put it in a little bin.
Yeah.
It's easy.
This is
and
like
that's not what most kids need.
Yeah, this is like a wind down. We're about to go to sleep. Let's do something at the table. Itch that scratch.
Itch that scratch.
And then we like wrap it up in a bow.
Yeah.
Hey.
He was autistic and non-speaking teen who loves to dance. This is Sam Dance, the dance class he's been doing since he was 7.
Look at him.
It's like a home down. Oh my gosh.
See, this is what I would want to be a part of because I can't hear music and not move my body. This is my vibe.
This is so
Look at it. Look in the background. Ah! So cute.
so cute. He looks so happy.
And it looks like he has his chew necklace in his hand.
I love that he's there dancing his own way and just able to like engage in some self-stimulatory behavior, but is still part of the group. Oh my God, it's so cute.
Well, and it looks like in the background, they have a bunch of different kids. So they're just letting them all live their lives. I think for us, we should have different dance parties like this. You're getting a lot of like your stimulation out, right? Great, super exciting. But I also think this is a time to like have good social conversations and social interactions. Yeah. Like if I'm just sitting here like this, we're having a full conversation.
Yeah, we are.
We're feeling the music.
I love that they clarified non-speaking versus nonverbal. Oftentimes we hear nonverbal, but then that doesn't account for kids that are using like PECs or like Talker or some sort of like augmentative communication system.
Wait, that was so fast.
Save our children if we give them every escape. Teach your children the code. Yes.
Can
it's
I
a
get
great one.
I need to finish reading it, but I'm clapping.
We will disable our children if we give them escape every single time they struggle. Teach your children the coping skills to persist.
It is the struggle that gets you anything worthwhile in life. There is like a huge plethora of coping skills.
Yes, you can walk away, you can take deep breaths, you can squeeze your hands.
Not every coping skill is appropriate for every moment. And so it's important to teach our kids an arsenal of coping skills. Yeah. If they are doing math work and they're like so angry and they're like, I just want to go to my room, that's how I can calm down. That's not necessarily the most appropriate coping skill because we are reinforcing escape in that moment. What we want to do is teach our kids that, and anyone, adults, anyone, you can apply different coping skills based on the environment, based on what is appropriate in that moment.
It is so important to teach our kids like the grit of getting through something that's hard, like teaching them that they can do hard things, that they're capable of that. It's definitely like a skill building, like very young children, you know, 18 months and younger don't really have a ton of coping skills or a lot of like impulse control. And even
impulse control is the big one on that one. Like, some of it is just so automatic that you're like, oh.
There's no stop and think.
There's no stopping it.
Yeah, just react. But then as they like gain the skills to kind of restrain a behavior or to like control an impulse, then you can start to teach those coping skills. But they need to be able to stop something or at least like notice something before you start teaching them to then use a coping skill. Because you first have to notice you're feeling the thing, recognize you're acting a certain way, and then slow it down. But you can still start teaching that pretty young, under 2.
We have to teach coping skills. We have to practice coping skills before they need coping skills.
Yes. You cannot learn a skill when you are emotionally escalated.
No.
Your brain is in a like version of fight or flight at that point. And so like I think we've all worked with the kid that the moment you say calm down, the moment you say do you need a break, the moment you say like let's take a deep breath, they're like, ah! Like super
They're seeing
escalated.
red.
And that's because we've taught them wrong. Like we have prompted them for those calm down strategies, those coping skills while they're already escalated. And so hearing those words of like let's calm down, like let's take a deep breath, have been paired with the like escalated feeling. So we have to teach the coping skill ahead of the behavior while they're calm, while their brain is ready to learn. Pair it with reinforcement, but they need to be able to contact the skill fairly fluently while they're calm first before you ever target it while they're upset.
And that's the rule of thumb for everything.
And one of the number one questions that Carol and I get asked all the time is, how can I advance my career as a behavior analyst? And I would like to offer you 3 suggestions. Number 1, build fluency in the job that you're doing now. Most likely you're a behavior analyst that has a caseload and supervises staff. And likely if you take on a leadership role, you will be helping to support someone do the same role that you have right now.
What a thought.
Learn how to do your job really, really well. Number 2, be someone that solves problems. Don't simply just bring issues up to your leadership team, to your supervisor, but bring solutions. And even if your solution doesn't work, this is a great exercise in you having ideas and iterating and collaborating with others. Number 3, be someone that models what it means to be a professional to other folks. Our field is really young. People need a lot of support in terms of what are professional skills, what are boundaries. And if you want to be someone that people look up to, then engage in the behaviors that you would like to see from your leaders.
Okay.
I love that last part.
Turn into a melt.
But I love how she finished with basically be the leader you wanted when you were a clinician. I mean, she didn't say exactly that, but like, I
have a story.
Oh, go.
So, back in the day when I was dealing with other types of things, I did my best as a clinician to go to all of the right people and to try and do my part well as a clinician as I was trying to become a supervisor. I couldn't get answers, and I ended up in a meeting with an individual who sat across from me and basically said, like, you have quite a bit of feedback for these supervisors. And I was like, I do. And I remember him saying to me, well, you know what? I hope that you can take all of this and make sure you're not those things and be the leader you want to be and that you want to see. And I was like, oh, challenge accepted. It was Isaac Bermudez.
I was wondering
And
if
I
that was
was
going to be
like,
him.
yes. And I remember being like, oh, game on then. Because I expect people to respond. I expect people to be kind. Kindness isn't nice. It takes courage to be honest with one another and to meet people where they're at. I want to be kind, not nice.
Kindness isn't nice.
Kindness isn't nice.
Give
And
them
so,
real, true feedback so they know where they're actually at.
yes, that is the only way we can grow. And so I love that list because we should be modeling. We should be taking our current job seriously too.
Yeah.
Sometimes they think we're always looking for the next thing, and we skip the part where we need to be really good at what we're currently doing.
Yeah, like be fluent at what your current job is.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
whether you stay there or not, I don't care. But the coming to the table
with solutions.
Oh my gosh. It's a matter of like, I am fine with hearing problems.
Yeah.
That is actually kind of
majority of our job.
I was gonna say, that's probably number 1 on our job description is hear people's problems. But the next part is solving problems. And what I would like is not someone to come in and overstep, but come in and say, here's what's happening.
These are I've tried.
Yeah, these are the things I've tried. These are the steps that I've gone through. Like, I don't need someone to have the right solution. I just need someone to come to the table with an open mind and a collaborative spirit to be like,
maybe some ideas for a solution, because honestly, that pairs you with reinforcement for the person you're bringing the problem to. If you're bringing problems to leaders, they're probably hearing a lot of problems all day, every day. And if you're the person that also comes with solutions, you're definitely going to be more paired with reinforcement for that leader.
The fluency, the struggle, and then the modeling.
Yeah, coming with solutions. I think
Welcome to ABA. A tantrum is the expression of a child operated
is an intense and uncontrollable response with a whole situation. Miko's having a tantrum because we wouldn't let her eat chalk.
I get it. I would want to eat chalk too.
It's so colorful.
I like how mom is breathing and at her eye level.
Yeah.
Love that for her.
Beautiful.
Aw,
Just don't
little
want you to
nugget. The battles you fight as a parent. I just don't want you to eat chalk.
All activity, help calm her down. Also, a little redirection with bubbles.
Amazing. The gentle life. That was very gentle. Yeah, we can.
There's no clinical definition of a tantrum versus a meltdown necessarily, but she does kind of operationalize them here in the video. She describes like a tantrum as being,
we have like different levels. Like you can basically
an expression of frustration for not being able to get their way versus a meltdown, which is an uncontrollable response to an overwhelming situation, usually something confusing. So she's operationalizing it, giving it a definition of,
and she'd be able to take data points on the difference between the two, which I think is important. A tantrum for one kid could look totally different than a tantrum from another kid. One kid could flop to the floor, cry, throw things, bite. Another kid could tantrum by like sitting on the floor, dead quiet with his face on the floor and just like
not moving, tensing their body.
Yeah. There's also tantrums where, you know, I have a client where we broke it down into different levels. So we have a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3. Maybe if that was how she would have termed this, she would have put that tantrum at level 1 and that meltdown at level 2. But again, it's how you operationally define it.
Yeah.
And then collect those data points. And then the BIP for those different things, basically how you would go and implement that behavior plan in order to de-escalate the situation, teach the appropriate replacement behaviors, and redirect like they did to Bubbles, which was fantastic.
Yeah, I think like her point here was like a tantrum is like that lower level when you're still kind of in control of yourself. You can still like maybe like take a deep breath or follow a couple instructions, but you're upset versus a meltdown where like feelings are just out of control. You're kind of at like peak upset.
Seeing red.
Yes, you can't really hear or think or like follow directions because you're just seeing red. You're like as upset as you can be. And so she's trying to like differentiate how you handle one versus the other. When a child is in that state of like peak upset, giving them instructions, having them do anything, especially at her age, she's little, like is not feasible, not helpful, not clinically appropriate. Like she needs to be able to calm down and like hear again and be in a little control of her emotions before you can like continue with learning or continue with being out in the world.
That takes time. I always say to my parents, I'm like, you just don't meet chaos with chaos. You meet it with the calm that you're wanting to see. What this mom does is great. She gets down to that kid's level. She's not forcing anything. She's not over speaking. She's not giving a bunch of demands. She's talking very quietly, calming, and she's modeling essentially what she's hoping to see from her kid, which is what we want to see. And that is one of the hardest things to do. I'm a mom, and
it's natural to have an emotional reaction to your child's emotional reaction.
It's very natural. And sometimes I have to bite my tongue and be like, if I yell or if I do something like that right now, not that that in itself is bad, because there is an appropriate time for like yelling. Don't run in the street, oh my gosh. But in that moment, I have to remember whatever I am doing, I am also modeling. And so if I start meeting that chaos with chaos, then I am modeling that that's the appropriate response.
If when Kyley is frustrated, she yells at her child, then her child learns, oh, when I'm frustrated, I should yell.
And let me tell you, that's the last thing I need to teach my kid. The mom continued on the path of calm, because if she would have been like, you know what, fine, here's chalk, enjoy. We got that far to only show now she has to go that far in order to get what she wants. And so next time it might not be just the tantrum, it might be straight to like the meltdown, crazy, whatever. And now we've taught this is how far you have to push me in order for me to cave in.
Yes, better to give in right at the beginning than through like several minutes or
know
hours
the battles
of behavior
that you're picking, guys.
Yes.
Some people every day. I know it makes you.
Is he continuing to sing?
I remember your name and where you came from.
You are not f***ing playing here. I'm telling you right now, you're not f***ing playing here.
Well, why don't you go ahead and get the manager from the market, and then we'll talk about it, because...
So many feelings.
So many feelings.
So many feelings.
I have a question for you.
I apologize for kicking your can, and I will apologize for that. I was that angry.
Because if we keep doing this, it's not good for the people here, because it's hard for them to enjoy your performance or my performance when they're both at the same time. What if you tap dance to my songs? We could be in synchrony, and then we both can prosper.
I love it.
Did you play anything upbeat.
I like what I like, what I like, what I
Hey.
like. What I love, what I love, and I like what I like, and I love what I love. If you don't know, okay, well for me.
I feel like when watching these videos, it's so easy to have such a quick reaction. I understand it's about our reaction, but like, just to kind of like empathize with the man who obviously had an outburst. He clearly was thrown off that like he has a consistent thing that he does.
Right. He has a routine he follows.
Yes, and it was disrupted. Was his response appropriate? Never. Like,
100%.
let us be clear. It is never appropriate to go 0 to 60 in that way. But I think it's important for us to understand why he got there.
And we don't know like the culture of like street performing in this area. Maybe
No.
there are like kind of set
Territorial.
territories. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, like, this is always my corner every Saturday.
Yes.
Like, why are you here?
Yes. And this is kind of, as behaviorists, this is what you have to do, is you see something play out, but then you have to pause and understand the function of the behavior.
And understand some environmental context that we actually don't have.
No, we don't have. So I think when looking at that, obviously, he no longer had access to the thing that he always had access to. Again, the routine that he had, it was disrupted. Instead of, utilizing calm language to have a conversation dialogue about that, he kicked the can.
But like, it might also be like an actual threat to his livelihood that he's not able to perform on this corner this way. Like, because maybe he knows if he performs other places, he's not going to make the money he needs to make ends meet that week.
There can be a lot happening there.
Yeah.
With that being said, again,
Let's not kick buckets.
let's not kick buckets. And honestly, anything could have happened in a situation like this, but I do appreciate the other man, instead of meeting
The chaos
with chaos, he stayed calm. He kept his tone calm. He tried dialoguing. And you can tell that there was some sort of break and like some proximity
Some time
to both
had
of
passed,
them.
probably, yeah.
Because they were able to come back and the man apologized, which I think we have to
credit.
Yeah, we are gonna mess up. You have to apologize. And we got to be able to see like a sweet dialogue about like that collaborative spirit. There is a problem, here is a solution. It is us compromising.
I also appreciate that the guy, the rapper, when the other man kicked the bucket, he didn't like stop immediately and react. He kind of just kept singing and going on. Like,
I'm still making coins.
which doesn't feed into the first guy's behavior and like show him, kicking the bucket really had an effect on me.
And that guy does not mean he can't hold the other person accountable, right? Like, you should still be able to have those boundaries and say, hey, those are my things.
Not cool.
Please don't touch my things. That's not cool. But to your point, it was a matter of like, hey, I need to recognize that if someone's coming to the table with this much aggression, I need to let that have a moment. It does not mean I get to be taken advantage of. It doesn't mean more of my stuff needs to be kicked. I can still stand my ground. But it doesn't mean you escalate the situation.
Yeah, when somebody acts out in a way that's like beyond what you expect for the situation, it's a very important skill to step back and be like, I must not know what's going on entirely here.
What is happening?
Yeah, like there's something going on behind the scenes that I'm not privy to.
Yeah.
And knowing that, like, everybody else has something worse going on in their life than we do.
Yes.
Like, and staying kind of humble and kind. Like, you don't need to meet his anger with anger. You can meet it with collaboration and calm, like he did.
To be fair, I have experienced that where I'm like, I have a spot.
You're in my spot.
You're in my spot,
Starbucks.
and I have to kind of pause and be like, okay,
I don't own that table. It's
I will have to adjust my behavior today and change and be flexible and adapt to my new situation. That is not easy.
Totally.
It's not easy.
I didn't realize that whenever I'm in interviews with behavior analysts, they ask, how do you experience autism? They're not like, nice because she said she had autism.
And yes, I'm autistic.
I don't even know which one this is. Like.
Interview when not mentioned. Oh my gosh. This is wild. So she's basically saying that she is autistic, and when she mentions that on her phone screenings, that she doesn't get callbacks.
You know what's crazy about this, Ryan, is that like autism is not new. And it's actually being talked about more now, which I think is amazing. But there is still a deficit with our adults. We have a huge support system now for a lot of our littles into like teens.
Yeah.
And then people are like, what the heck do we do with adults? And it's like,
Yeah.
we put all their skills to use. That's what we do with adults.
Well, and in this situation, nobody needs to do anything. She's an adult that's out in the world, has her BCBA, and is like looking for a job. And like I'm going to own us all as a field. Our biases as like people hiring are limiting her ability or their ability to get a job because she's mentioning she has autism.
Yeah, I think too, it's one of those things where, and I hear this a lot, I've actually heard this from a dad that I've worked with. He says, autism doesn't have my kid just has autism. It's just a part of him, same way that his brown hair is a part of him, his eyes are a part of him.
Right, and I mean, we should want to have the perspective of an adult with autism in our field practicing alongside us. Like, who better?
This is a huge misstep.
I mean, the fact that she gives us like 0 out of 7 callbacks when she mentions her diagnosis versus 5 out of 5 callbacks when she doesn't, like, that's astounding.
You still want to make sure that they have X, Y, and Z, but you don't know that unless you give them the space to talk with you.
Right.
And so my issue is that there weren't even calls back.
No. The fact that she's getting 5 out of 5 callbacks when she doesn't mention it versus 0 when she does, like, really indicates that it is a prejudice. Like, they're simply hearing the word autistic applied to the interviewee and then crossing her off the list. I love what she said up there about like changing the lives of people with autism often is code for trying to force autistics to mask to feel accepted by society. Like, oftentimes, especially in like more traditional ABA, like children with autism were forced to make eye contact. And now we have like autistic adults talking about how uncomfortable, like physically it feels to make eye contact. And so thankfully our field is changing slowly, could be faster, and not working as much on things like eye contact just because that's what's expected socially, and instead meeting that individual where they're at and saying like, you need to respond, and maybe you need to like face the person you're talking to, but you don't need to stare them in the eyeballs.
Recognizing someone for who they are and the strengths that they have and teaching them that. But on the flip side, it's teaching everyone else outside of that. So people who don't have autism, people who don't deal with different things that other people do, to give them the context, because it's a dance between the two. I don't believe that we should be taking these clients who happen to have a diagnosis to merge them with exactly what society tells them they have to be, but rather a dance of like, hey, this is kind of where they're at, the pendulum over here. This is where you're at, the pendulum over here. How do we meet in the middle?
Right. We don't make people in wheelchairs figure out how to get upstairs. Without, like, stairs. We should not make people with figure out how to cope in an environment that they cannot like cope or process or hear words in because of all the auditory. Like,
she should have had a seat at the table to express who she is as a person and what she could have brought into a company.
Saying I'm autistic autistic should not be a bad word. It's just a fact. It's like saying I have brown hair. Or
I am a redhead. I don't have a soul. I am soulless.
But like, it's just, they have neurodiversity and there are strengths in that. Like, there is a different lens through which this individual sees the world, and we should welcome that perspective and incorporate it into what we do.
I love this. Yes. That natural environment teaching, the play, that
children learn through play.
Could you imagine this, sitting at a table and being like, okay.
Like, who's sleeping?
Who's sleeping?
Yeah.
This card, like, those are great methods, but we can't forget this. So kids learn in different ways.
Method.
Yeah.
Learn by having fun.
Yeah.
And they learn.
Look at that face. That
He's so
cheeky, devious little face. Such a cutie.
It's harder to create these opportunities. You have to be more creative. You might even get fewer in.
She's on the floor. She's sweating. She's like getting gross.
Yeah. He's learning right now the payoff of using this language versus like labeling, I don't know, a stimuli on a flashcard. What real world salience does that have for him?
What does that actually mean?
Right.
What does that actually look like? I just shout out to whoever this woman is. It seems so simple and it feels like we're hyping up something that feels just very like, just honestly simple, but that's not. Like getting on the floor and playing and having to teach, because it's not just teaching sleep there, it's teaching what buttons to press. It's teaching having that self-control of like, I am gonna allow this really fun technology to be there and we're gonna utilize it, but in a very specific way. So there's a whole other level of instructional control here.
So much less control over everything, but he has more control, which gives him more like ample opportunity to learn.
So clips like these are things that like you can do a full training on with people of what do I mean by play? Play is not just mindless, right? Play has intention to it.
I also love how she like waits him out here. Like there's one point where he like puts the words onto the talker, but then he doesn't hit speak. And so she sits there and waits for him to like, actually make it talk, which is such an important, I think, learning moment, just like waiting him out. She didn't even have to jump in and prompt him. He realized, oh wait, you're not doing the thing I expected you to do. I missed a step, and he was able to go in and self-correct.
Plus, bless him, he could have left her in sleep mode this entire time.
But it's fun. It's too fun to do that.
She is too reinforcing. She needs to wake up, which also just shows that she's done the work of pairing herself with that reinforcement. That's my favorite. I love that. What a little nugget. We love it.
That was so much fun. Thank you so much for joining us. Please like, follow, and subscribe.
Hit the buttons and see us next time.